This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Tonight, from missing to murdered, an Annapolis Valley case ends in tragedy. Mega Project, an Irish company, has big plans to turn Nova Scotia's renewable energy into jet fuel. And NHL Assist, the pros make a major play to help a skating program in Glace Bay.
Chance of an isolated shower overnight into early Saturday, but this front moves south and we clear the skies. A pretty bright weekend shaping up. Your full forecast is coming up.
Good evening. It started as a missing persons case, but now it is a murder investigation. Esther Jones is dead, and a 54-year-old Annapolis Valley man is in custody, facing a charge of first-degree murder. RCMP revealed details of the case this afternoon. The CBC's Blair Rose reports.
For days, we've reported about the search for Esther Jones, who was last seen on August 31st in Kingston. Her family reported her missing on Labor Day after she failed to show up for church the day before. On Wednesday of this week, RCMP said Jones's disappearance was now considered suspicious, but they wouldn't explain why. Today came that explanation, with news that 54-year-old Dale Allen Toole has been charged with first-degree murder in Jones's disappearance.
We don't have information on the actual relationship between the two. We do know that they're from the same community. There's a familial connection on a larger basis, I can say. At this point, we don't have a very specific connection on a relationship or any particular friendship. We are still very much investigating that point, but what we can say is they did not reside together. So this investigation began at the Kingston Bible College. That was the last location that she was known to have been seen. We have evidence from that scene that supported the investigation to get us to the point that we're at now. What we can say is that there was a struggle that occurred at the Bible College, and that's what began this investigation.
American authorities caught up to Toole at the airport in Houston, Texas, where he was about to board a flight to Mexico. Homeland Security decided to deport him back to Canada instead. RCMP say the deportation was not in relation to the murder charge. When Toole flew into Toronto, that's where Canadian police arrested him and laid the murder charge. RCMP say Toole will be flown back to Nova Scotia tomorrow on an RCMP plane and is expected to make his first court appearance on Monday. Esther Jones's body has not been found, and RCMP say finding her is a priority as their investigation continues. Blair Rhodes, CBC News, Halifax.
Executives from an Irish company were in Halifax Friday to reveal plans for a renewable energy mega project on Nova Scotia's eastern shore. The company wants to convert wind, solar, and biomass energy into jet fuel. Taryn Grant reports.
It's wide open coastline right now, but Ireland's Simply Blue group has big ideas for this land.
I'm reluctant to give the exact figure because we are still at design stage and figures change, but I am happy to confirm that it is a multi-billion-dollar investment.
What they plan to do in Guysborough County is build a wind and solar farm and use that energy to produce green hydrogen. They'll use the green hydrogen and biomass to produce fuel for airplanes. They call it sustainable aviation fuel.
Our sustainable aviation fuel will achieve a 90% reduction in carbon dioxide emissions when compared with conventional fossil fuel-derived jet fuel.
The company plans to buy local biomass. They already have a deal with Wagner Forest, a woodlot manager. The forestry industry has been looking for new biomass markets since the closure of Northern Pulp 4 years ago. This part of the project got Simply Blue an endorsement from a Nova Scotia cabinet minister.
This is going to create an enormous opportunity for many private landowners all throughout Nova Scotia.
Rushton also likes the idea of job creation. The company says the plant could employ hundreds of locals, but not everyone is as enthusiastic. Some are unhappy to see more wind turbines going up that won't contribute to Nova Scotia's clean energy goals. And this environmentalist says the use of biomass is not sustainable.
Biomass is not a climate solution, and the volumes that they're talking about, I believe 700,000 tons a year, is on par with a medium-sized pulp mill in terms of consumptive capacity. I don't think our forests and our biodiversity, our wildlife can take that kind of industrial use.
The company still needs to sign investors and get regulatory approval before they can start building. If they overcome those hurdles, they say fuel production could start in 2029. Taryn Grant, CBC News, Halifax.
Striking Halifax Public Libraries staff could be heading back to work soon. Halifax Public Libraries and the union have reached a tentative agreement. Library staff went on strike 2.5 weeks ago over wages and the increasing cost of living, as well as concerns over safety at work. The union says voting on the deal will take place soon. If the deal is accepted, workers will return to work next week and all branches will resume regular hours. Details of the deal have not been released. The Council of Healthcare Unions has ratified a 2-year agreement with Nova Scotia's health authorities, avoiding a potential strike. The 3 unions represent 9,100 healthcare workers, including physiotherapists, lab staff, social workers, and pharmacists. CUPE, Unifor, and NSGEU say 79% of members voted in favor of the deal. The unions say wage increases depend on a member's occupation, with all workers receiving basic wage adjustments of 3% dated back to November 1st, 2023, and 2% effective November 1st, 2024. Tenant advocates are decrying the use of fixed-term leases, saying this type of rental agreement is becoming almost unavoidable, creating a loophole in the province's current rent cap. The CBC's Nicholas Seguin reports on this type of lease and why tenant groups want it regulated and why landlords say they're using it.
You find a place to rent, you sign the lease, maybe you expect to live there for years to come. But one section of the lease could change everything. It might be fixed term.
The primary problem with this type of lease is the fact that there's no security for the tenant. They are given their particular dates. They are given a start and an end, and there is no obligation on the part of the landlord to continue housing anyone past that point.
Unlike a periodic lease, a fixed-term lease doesn't automatically renew. This means you must leave at the end unless your landlord gives you written consent to stay. This has come into focus as one of the top tenancy issues in Nova Scotia. The province just extended its 5% rent cap, but many people are saying the fixed-term lease is a loophole.
It just seems like a deliberate move at this point to create this loophole.
By extending this fundamentally useless rent cap, not closing the fixed-term lease loophole and making evictions easier, we're heading into more housing insecurity in the face of the housing crisis that we're already in.
But why would an end date on a lease make the rent cap useless? In Nova Scotia, rent control is tied to the tenant, not the rental unit. So when a fixed-term lease is up and the existing tenant moves out, there's no limit on the new rental price for the new tenant. That being said, if the same tenant stays in the same unit and signs a new lease, they are covered under the cap. But tenant groups say that's not what's happening.
It encourages this cycle of turfing out tenants and upping the rent every single time they do so.
But landlords say otherwise.
There's a purpose for fixed-term leases, and they house thousands of Nova Scotians, and they're a vital part of the rental market.
Russell says many landlords use fixed-term leases as a trial period for students, newcomers with no references, or people with poor credit, meaning they might not take a chance on these tenants without a fixed-term lease. He says some people also want this type of lease, like if they're only in town for a short period of time. The minister in charge agrees.
I've been very clear. I support the appropriate use of fixed-term leases. There's a time and place for fixed-term leases.
LeBlanc says he's heard of people using these leases with bad intentions, but his department has no data to track their use, which many say is a problem.
I think it could be one of those situations where you just kind of cover your eyes and don't want to know the truth. And the truth is grim. The truth is grim for people in this province who rent.
Groups representing tenants are calling for rent control to be tied to the rental unit, not the person living there. They also want fixed-term leases to be regulated or to automatically renew. Some landlords say this will lead them to sell their properties and make problems in the rental market worse. Other provinces have bridged this gap, but so far Nova Scotia is choosing to stick with the status quo. Nicholas Sagan, CBC News, Halifax.
Ryan Snoddon with us now from the CBC Weather Centre. Another nice Friday. All eyes on the weekend.
Yeah, that's right. And the weekend is shaping up to be a nice one. So many times we get a great week and then it rains on the weekend. Not this time, though. We do have showers Friday night into the early stages of Saturday, especially along the Atlantic coastline. That's going to be our greatest risk. The front sinks south. The northerly flow will certainly be making its presence felt. That September feel will be in the air on Saturday, especially in northern areas with that onshore wind. Sustained near 20 with those northerly winds, by the way. So that's going to keep temperatures in the 18, 19, 20 degree range, and then 20 to 22, 23 degrees shielded from that northerly flow along the Atlantic coastline down towards the Yarmouth area. Now, those northerly winds are going to be coming to an end with a lighter wind overall on Sunday as high pressure sets up. That's going to allow temperatures to pop into the 22 to 23 range widespread on Sunday near 20 for Cape Breton. And you can see that area of high pressure kind of settling in. Beautiful skies, lots of sunshine on Sunday. And then as we move into the early stages of next week, that area of high pressure is going to migrate off to the east. That is going to open the door and allow that southwest wind to move back in. So we're really talking about temperatures on the rise, summer-like temps to kick off next week. All those details with your 7-day forecast still to come, Tom.
Sounding all right. All right, Ryan, thank you so much. We will chat later.
Thank you.
The Houston government is sending mixed signals about immigration to the province. The federal government has asked provinces to accept thousands more immigrants who fear persecution, injury, or death if they remain in their home country. Yesterday, Houston offered this hard line to Ottawa's request.
We're sticking to our plan on healthcare workers and skilled trades. That's the plan. We'd hope the federal government would respect that. There's certainly our capacity to accept asylum seekers is just not there. So that's something that we hope the federal government would respect.
In a statement, the Premier's office calls the request, quote, unacceptable and suggests Ottawa is trying to take advantage of Nova Scotians. But speaking to reporters earlier this afternoon, Minister Balser wasn't slamming the door shut on the request.
We have to have a chance to be able to think, what is Nova Scotia's ability to be able to support that increase? But making sure that if we do, it has to come with resources, it has to come with support, because we want to continue to be a welcoming province to support anyone who's coming to Nova Scotia, whether it was by choice or not.
Balser says the provinces are expected to meet with Federal Immigration Minister Mark Miller in the coming weeks. Making the switch to electric vehicles on Canada's waterways and coastlines hasn't been as swift as it's been on the road, but that could soon be changing. Electric boats are a key topic at a national convention on EVs happening in Halifax. Brett Ruskin has more.
The conference happening here this week is discussing how to convert and create more electric boats, perhaps not the size of a cruise ship, but maybe the size of the smaller boats you see right here. There are opportunities that were on display here at an electric marine vessel showcase that took place as part of this conference. So there was a tour boat, there was a fishing boat, there was an autonomous research vessel as well on display to show the different examples of electric vehicles that have already been created. And those fishing boats offer a big opportunity to reduce greenhouse gas emissions here on the East Coast as well as across Canada. That's according to the president of the Electric Mobility Canada. Here's what he had to say about those opportunities.
Oh my God, the possibilities are huge because of the fact that many of these boats have to be either refurbished or just plain replaced. So that's why, to me, what I would like to see is not only that we buy electric boats, but we build electric boats in Canada, in Nova Scotia, in BC.
Now, to incentivize companies to build electric boats and for captains and crews to buy and refurbish their current diesel boats, there is an incentive in place here in Nova Scotia, $6.5 million over 3 years to upgrade your boat, to research different electrification options, or to invest in renewable energy, solar and wind, at ports so that captains and crews will eventually have a place to plug in. Now, the window for the first round of that funding actually closes this week, Sunday, I think. So proposals should be in from those crews. So a glimpse at the incentives that are available to the industry right now, provincially, some federal incentives as well, and also a glimpse at the future of the marine industry with the next big push being towards electrification. Brett Ruskin, CBC News, Halifax.
An investigation into the loss of the Titan submersible will begin in South Carolina on Monday. The Marine Board of Investigation is the highest level of investigation the U.S. Coast Guard has and is reserved for significant maritime casualties. The investigation will determine the cause of Titan's loss. It will hear from former Ocean Gate employees and industry experts. It will also look for misconduct or negligence or any violation of the law. The board will issue recommendations to prevent similar incidents. It has a year to issue the report. The Titan departed from St. John's in June of 2023. The submersible imploded on its way to the wreck of the Titanic, killing 5 on board, including OceanGate CEO Stockton Rush. A popular Learn to Skate program in Glace Bay has been given a major assist from the National Hockey League. Thousands of dollars worth of hockey gear from the Players Association has been given out to the kids in the community. Kyle Moore reports.
Christmas came early for kids in Glace Bay. The lineup was long as many waited to try on brand new hockey gear that they'll soon be wearing on the ice.
The NHL Players Association have generously donated 25 full sets of gear. That's from sticks, gear bags, skates, helmets, the whole 9 yards.
The free gear was handed out to the first 25 kids through the door, including Paulette Murphy's 4-year-old grandson.
All he has is a helmet, so skates are too small from last year that we were trying to learn him how to skate. But yeah, he needs skates and everything else that goes with it, I guess.
Boner's program offers kids a chance to hit the ice at very little cost. And while hockey is a favorite pastime for many Canadians, it isn't cheap. Gear and league fees for some is in the hundreds, if not thousands of dollars.
It's awesome because we really can't afford to go out and buy all new gear, right? And it means his first time playing hockey, so he probably need to buy more next year and the year after and the year after, so this is awesome.
The Players Charitable Initiative is designed to assist grassroots hockey programs who are helping deserving youth play the game of hockey. Qualified programs receive complete sets of brand new hockey equipment from the NHLPA Goals and Dreams Fund to be distributed to deserving youth in the community.
12 years I've been doing this part of it. It's so exciting. I don't know, it's kind of, well, it's emotional, and our kids need it.
Boner says his goal is to provide free gear and ice time for a sport that can be costly. However, without community support, he says it's not possible.
You got to make kids count, and they got to feel part of the community because they're our community coming up. There's no other way around it. It's just to see the smile on their faces, and they're happy.
Boner's group will hit the ice for the first time this year, looking their best on Monday. Kyle Moore, CBC News, Glace Bay.
It will be a great weekend to be on the lake. Kearney Lake, a beautiful shot there tonight. Ryan Snoddon back with your full weather forecast in just a few minutes. Well, as we've said, you couldn't pick a bad week this summer for summer vacation. The same thing is true, really, for the month of September so far.
It's been a spectacular September. Definitely temperatures, punching above their weight. It's going to be a warmer than average month. That is almost a slam dunk. And next week we'll really be bumping those overall averages up with summer-like warmth building in for the last full week of summer. So before fall kicks in. So let's have a look at our webcam video. And this is a live shot, Lower Truro.
Pretty quiet there tonight, isn't it?
Yeah, beautiful evening. Still a bit of a milky haze to the sky today. That is indeed western wildfire smoke still in the mix.
Wondered about that, yeah.
Yeah. Less of that likely tomorrow once the winds do shift around and become northerly tonight into tomorrow. So yeah, you can see just a beautiful evening out there. And as we look across the province right now, temperature-wise, it's 20 degrees or 19 to be exact. In Truro, 22 in through the HRM region, 22 in Sydney and Ingonish Beach. Lots of 22s on the board. Temperatures more like the teens, excuse me, for the Tri-County area. And you can see those current winds right now. Not too breezy out there, but that is set to change as we do roll through into Saturday. So let's have a look at the weather systems, and you can see there's the front that's working its way into the Maritimes, and that has been sparking up some showers and even a couple of lightning strikes here across New Brunswick with this frontal boundary. That front is going to sink south, and again, that is what will give us a bit of a temperature reset for Saturday. That area of high pressure here kind of takes over, though, and clears us out into Sunday, and then this warm front here is going to extend over and kind of open that door up and allow that southwest wind to kick back in and really bump our temperatures up into early next week. This area of high pressure, by the way, is making for a very, very wet stretch here across the southeast part of the U.S. This is the remnants of Francine, which is just sitting and spinning over and over with showers and periods of rain and a really wet stretch there. As they're kind of experiencing the short end of the stick of that blocking setup that's going on, and we're experiencing obviously all the sunshine. There's the front that we've been tracking the last couple of days. Note temperatures into the teens from Vancouver back through Saskatchewan, and then the temps really warming up through the Great Lakes and nearly 30 degrees in Chicago right now, 22 in, of course, the Halifax area. Now let's have a look at temperatures for tonight. Milder than it has been over the last couple of mornings. Certainly we'll be waking up to 13 to 15, maybe even 16 degrees with those winds shifting from southwest to northerly overnight, but not enough time for that cooler air to really settle in and drop our temperatures in terms of our morning lows. Note, by midnight, that front starting to approach northern areas. It kind of fizzles as it moves its way through, so not a lot of moisture with this, but by 6 a.m., potential for those showers along the Atlantic coastline, and then note the winds in from the north with those arrows here for tomorrow. So that will impact temperatures. 17 for Inverness County tomorrow, 20 from Port Hawkesbury through Richmond County, and that chance of showers again right along that Atlantic coastline tomorrow morning for the early morning hours, and then things clearing out. 17 Tatamagouche, but we'll be into the 20s for a good chunk of the mainland, especially down here in the southwest. That's our best chance of cracking 22 to 23 degrees. Sunday's just terrific. Light winds, 21 to 23 for the mainland, closer to 20 still for Cape Breton. But that area of high pressure, again, just dominating. And then that southwest flow, again, kicking back in as that high moves off. Southwest winds moving in for Monday, 26, 27. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week. Then the next front looks set for Thursday. But a summer stretch to say goodbye to summer. Hard to believe we're here already.
Those are some pretty big numbers for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, Ryan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, people from across the world have come together for the Walking Together for Peace walk. It is a 200-kilometer walk across Nova Scotia. The walk started in Pugwash and will end in Halifax on the September 21st for International Day of Peace. CBC visited the walkers as they passed through Tatamagouche.
Have started in Pugwash, which is the place of the Thinkers Lodge, where 67 years ago, 22 scientists came together to say, we need to regulate nuclear weapons. So we have been led from Pugwash, from this place of disarmament, by elders.
We have to look at what role Canada could play that would be a role as a peacekeeping nation. We thought we were moving forward on some of these things, and the biggest social movements these days are the climate change movements. So what are we doing getting involved with nuclear weapons and supporting the United States in the Arctic and destroying the Indigenous peoples' lands in the north?
This will be our honor song. I am Marian Nicholas. I'm one of the grassroots grandmother water walkers. It means a lot to me because I was honored to walk my ancestors' walk, where they walked through here with all nation.
The organizations involved in the walk are also involved in a project to bring disarmament education integration across Canada. We've been working with folks at the United Nations, we've been in touch with folks at our foreign ministry, and we're building relationships with provincial level ministries of education as well as teachers in Nova Scotia.
I lived in an armed conflict in my life. I'm from Damascus, Syria, and my homeland until today continues to have bombs and explosions. And for many times, especially during the revolution in Syria, I go like, where is the world? We're calling, we're saying, help us, this is not proper, and we don't see anything. Until when I came to Canada and I went to my first women march. Seeing and similarly feeling this now is bringing me to that feeling.
We invite everyone to participate. Come and talk to us. We want to invite you into this meaningful and important conversation and walk with us. Let's walk together.
Coming up, the threat of a strike by Air Canada pilots this Sunday has travelers across the country anxious about their travel plans. And Tragically Hip, no dress rehearsal. We learn more about the 4-part documentary premiering at the Atlantic International Film Fest. The Atlantic Film Festival got underway last night, and this evening, Mike Downey brings his latest work to the big screen at Cineplex Cinemas Park Lane. The Tragically Hip, No Dress Rehearsal is a 4-part documentary about the kids from Kingston, Ontario, who went on to make music that defined Canada to the world. Mike Downey, Gord's brother, is the producer. Jake Gold, who you may also know as a judge from Canadian Idol, is a music manager and represents the Tragically Hip. Both joined Jeff Douglas in studio to talk about the documentary. Have a listen.
It had to be really clear. Like, we're going to have to actually work harder to tell the real, unvarnished story because I'm Gord's brother. And I think, in the end, and Jake and I talked about it, he said, this can either be a weakness or a strength. And he was right because I really knew a lot of the inner workings of the band, mostly through Gord's perspective, however. I kind of felt like when we were talking about some of the, the more difficult subjects in the band's history, and, it's tensions, tensions that build up over years and years and years of being a huge band and a creative force.
And guys who met when you were 15,
High
16,
school.
right? And that's where your relationships are cast, and
Yeah.
then you grow up for 30 years together.
Well, and then you start to have wives and kids.
Yeah.
And
My friends, the Tragically Hip.
I just am struck by the sheer amount of footage that exists and what a gift that is, but also what it was emotional for me watching it.
These are legacy docs, and they are based on the strength of the archive. Like, it can only be as good as your archive, basically. And you got interviews and all that. If you don't have footage from, like, really close to the story, ideally from the actual story. But if you don't have the archive, you can't bring it to life. You can tell the story, but you can't bring it to life.
Yeah.
And it was obviously really important to have that visceral, experience
Because
while you're watching
you take
it.
us there.
You
take us then.
well,
right?
and footage and pictures.
Yeah.
There was a lot of pictures.
Where were you going for some of the concert footages?
Well,
fantastic.
So there were these sort of pools of archive that we knew about, and we just sort of had to get that in motion. But then some of the other pieces that came to light were there's these shots, you see them in the earliest days. They're clearly backstage somewhere, like Gord's flipping a bottle cap and Johnny's, looking into camera saying, "Who are you?" And that actually is from Bishop's University. They were playing the student pub. Well, we had this hip fan, Andrew Lassays, and he was reaching out to all these student pubs. Now, remember, people who were there in the 80s graduated and moved on to their lives. But he felt like because of student newspapers and things, there would be a chain, you'd be able to follow the source. We end up finding this guy living in LA. He's actually in the film business. He was the one who shot the footage. He's had it sitting on his shelf for 40 years, and that was that footage of the guys just hanging out together. Somebody asked Robbie, "What did you have for breakfast?" And he says, 2 beers and an aspirin. Well, this came from this guy in LA who's been sitting on this tape for 40 years. So, like, finds like that, the early episode, the archive is critical. Before much music kicks in and before these national, sort of media outlets start covering the band. And back in the 80s, nobody had video cameras.
In my hometown.
The one and only time I saw the Hip live was at the Misty Moon here in Halifax, which might have been 89, 90?
90.
And I understand that is, there's new music coming out or a new release regarding that, or with that people who are at that show will be interested in.
So we released a single called "Get Back Again," which was sort of the holy grail of unreleased hip songs.
Yeah.
It actually went to rock radio in June. It closes the doc. The end credits of episode 4 is that song. And the reason it became the holy grail of unreleased hip songs is because there was a live version of it that was on live at the Misty Moon. That was the Much Music special. And that song was the most bootlegged song of any hip song. And it was never released. The special edition version of that, there's a special edition, it's like comes in this fancy case and it's all these extra stuff. And one of the extra things is a 7-inch single of Get Back Again, the studio version, but the B-side is the Live at the Misty Moon. So there's Back to Halifax Again, and there's a big tie-in to that. So, and this is the 40th anniversary of the band. And I think that's why when Mike and I sat down and we said we have to put it out in 2024 because that's the 40th anniversary of the band.
Coming up, Prime Minister Trudeau took some shots at the NDP today, nearly a week after the New Democrats ripped up their supply and confidence agreement. Welcome back. The threat of an Air Canada pilot strike has travelers across the country worried and wondering what to do. The airline says it will be notifying customers if any flights are canceled today, and it prepares for the possibility of a strike or lockout next week. Nisha Patel has the latest.
Daniel Chu didn't want a shutdown to ruin his travel plans. We want to choose to change our flights just to avoid the risk of, missing out the flight.
So his family is flying to Tokyo 2 days early to start their vacation.
It is a bit stressful. We have to all get approvals from managers, to take an extra day off and then just scrambling around.
Air Canada and its pilots union have been in contract talks for more than a year, but wages are still a big sticking point. If they don't reach a deal by this weekend, either side could move forward with a lockout or a strike next Wednesday. Air Canada has warned it could start canceling flights on Sunday to prepare for a shutdown. The airline has already stopped accepting some cargo.
I do have to get back for work, so I just bit the bullet.
Christine Renault was visiting Newfoundland to hike the East Coast Trail, but was forced to cut her trip short by almost a week.
To be honest, it is frustrating because I'm really disappointed because I really loved this hike so much.
Travel agents have been flooded with calls from worried customers.
For a lot of clients who are financially able to, booking refundable fares on alternative airlines ahead of time has kind of been our best course of action.
While business, industry, and tourism groups have said there could be costly impacts on travel and trade. Air Canada has called for the government to step in, but the Prime Minister insists it's up to the company and its union to work things out.
So I know every time there's a strike, people say, get the government to come in and fix it. We're not going to do that. We believe in collective bargaining, and we're going to keep pushing people to do it.
Passengers who might be affected can get travel credits or rebook flights for free within certain dates. Though with the deadline looming, how widespread the disruption will be is still up in the air. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
Tens of thousands of aircraft workers walked off the job today at Boeing factories in Washington, Oregon, and California.
This is about addressing the past, and this is about fighting for our future.
It comes after union members voted overwhelmingly to strike, rejecting a tentative contract that would have seen wages increase by 25% over 4 years. The labor action involves 33,000 Boeing machinists, most in Washington state. It will halt production of the company's best-selling planes. The strike will not affect commercial flights, but represents another setback for the aerospace giant. The strike is the first at the company in 16 years. Boeing's reputation and finances have been battered by manufacturing problems and several federal investigations this year. The case of a man alleged to be planning a terror attack in New York was before a judge in Montreal today. The suspect is facing extradition to the United States. Allison Northcott has the details.
The arrest in Ormstown, Quebec, near the U.S. border, was carried out by the RCMP following intelligence from an FBI investigation. U.S. justice officials allege 20-year-old Muhammad Shahzaib Khan was planning to enter the U.S. and carry out a deadly mass shooting targeting Jewish people in New York.
What is his reaction to these charges against him? What does he make of this?
It's a surprise first.
Khan himself did not appear in court, but his defense lawyer says he and his client are still waiting for evidence from the U.S. as it seeks to have Khan extradited.
He was arrested last week, our guy, and then they have 60 days to produce the proof that the United States have.
Khan came to Canada on a student visa in May of 2023. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says his arrest prevented potentially devastating situations.
All of us are confronting similar threats of violent extremism and radicalism that requires us to be vigilant. We are constantly making sure that our security services and intelligence agencies are keeping Canadians safe.
U.S. officials allege Khan, a Pakistani citizen living in the Toronto area, started showing support for ISIS online and on encrypted messaging apps last November.
ISIS is not gone. ISIS is still an organization. While they may no longer have the territory that they had claimed as theirs in Iraq and Syria, what this shows is that the threat continues.
As part of the extradition process, the U.S. will weigh what evidence to share, says this former U.S. counterterrorism official.
What are they willing to disclose publicly, both to Canada and then again into a U.S. Open court process to reveal these government insights and again, prove to a jury beyond a reasonable doubt that Khan is guilty of that crime material support to ISIS.
Khan's next court hearing is scheduled for December 6. He's expected to appear by video conference from jail. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was in a suburb of Montreal today, making a spending announcement prior to next week's by-election in the city. He also took the opportunity to go after the NDP, who up until last week helped prop up the Liberal government.
I do believe that Jagmeet Singh and the NDP actually do care about the environment. It's just increasingly obvious that they have no idea what to do to fight against climate change. In the 2021 election, they had no serious environmental plan. And over the past years of our excellent agreement that delivered concretely for people on progressive priorities and made sure that Parliament was working for Canadians, they had no ideas on the environment.
Firefighters in the mountains east of Los Angeles are making some headway, but they're still finding people and pets in need of rescue from massive wildfires.
Battalion 9, go on tack. Hey, can I get you out of here? I don't care. Bring the dog. Let's go, man. I want you out of here.
3 wildfires in Southern California have scorched more than 400,000 hectares. They were burning at high speeds due to wind, tinder-dry conditions, and high temperatures. But those temperatures are dropping, allowing crews to contain some of the fires. A famous portrait of Winston Churchill called the Roaring Lion is coming back to its rightful home. It was swiped from an Ottawa hotel and replaced with a fake a few years ago before the world ever knew it was missing. David Fraser spoke with the man who unwittingly bought it.
As the world searched for the roaring lion stolen from its Canadian home, Nicola Casalini learned it was actually in his living room.
I discovered that, in fact, I didn't buy a simple copy of the roaring lion, but that copy, the one that Yusuf Karsh gifted to the famous Chateau Laurier.
That portrait of Winston Churchill by celebrated Canadian photographer Yusuf Karsh had finally been found years after it vanished and had been mysteriously replaced with a fake.
I realized that a piece of, not only a piece of art, but a piece of history was hanging in my living room.
A lawyer living in Italy, Casalini bought the portrait through an online auction house. Thinking it was a copy, he paid around $10,000 Canadian for it, including a commission in May 2022. But after a few months, he was contacted by the auction house and told to hold on to the artwork because of an ongoing investigation.
Of course, it was the first time that I was involved in an international case like that.
According to court documents, police have charged 43-year-old Jeffrey Wood for allegedly making a fraudulent copy of the portrait to replace the original. He's expected in an Ottawa courtroom later this month.
Well, it's very unusual that something that's been stolen shows up this quickly. 2 years is not a long time in the stolen art business.
Casalini is happy to return the artwork to its proper owners, and he will be officially handing it over to Canadian authorities in Rome next week.
A piece of that portrait is still mine, at least in my heart, in my memories.
He's also hoping to make a trip here to the Chateau Laurier in Ottawa to see it in its rightful home. David Fraser, CBC News, Ottawa.
Health officials in Ottawa have confirmed the country's first death from a rare mosquito-borne illness. The man died last month of brain inflammation. Jennifer Yoon has a closer look at the virus and why cases may be underreported.
A rare virus that spreads from mosquitoes to humans, now confirmed in Canada. Public health officials say a lab test confirms an Ottawa resident died after being infected with Eastern equine encephalitis in August. It's the first known case in this country in years.
There's no question that once it reaches the brain, it's very serious. It's a very serious illness, and your chances are about 1 in 3 of dying.
Most of the time, the symptoms are common, like fever, headache, and vomiting, that clear up after a week or two. But it can be catastrophic, including neurological symptoms and even death. There's no known cure and no vaccine for humans.
Wherever that mosquito has a footprint in North America, that's where EEE risk resides.
There have only been a handful of reported cases in Canada, but public health agencies aren't required to monitor it, which experts say can skew the numbers.
Certainly, the number of cases of Eastern equine encephalitis, just like the number of cases of West Nile virus encephalitis, are underreported.
In the U.S. Northeast, there have been 8 confirmed cases this summer and at least 1 death. Vermont's health department urged residents in some towns to stay inside between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. Experts say what's happening in the U.S. could be a taste of what's coming our way.
It's only a matter of time until we get more cases.
Warnings like that leading a push for change in Canada.
I don't think to date it's been necessary to have a separate EEE surveillance program, but I would say within the next 5 to 10 years, we probably will have one.
Avoiding mosquito bites is the best way to avoid the infection, say experts. But the good news, once the first frost arrives, the mosquito population will die off, along with the threat, at least until next summer. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
And we're back to wrap things up. And boy, with all the nice weather, I'm thinking there's plenty of nice pics piling up.
You're right. The inbox is full. But if there's two pictures that maybe stand out the most in terms of, what a tourist might want to snap if they're visiting the province, it's probably Peggy's Cove
for sure.
and the Blue Nose 2.
Yeah.
Well,
you got them both?
Have a look at this picture, taken of course, at Peggy's. You can't get a pic of Peggy's without being at Peggy's. But how about the Blue Nose 2 sailing through?
Someone stood in exactly the right spot to get that shot too, didn't they?
Tracy Wallace.
Well done.
Thank you very much for sharing this. Ryan's picks at cbc.ca. The most Nova Scotia picture ever, right there. Really appreciate it, Tracy. Ryan's picks, as I said, keep them coming. We've got temperatures along the Atlantic coastline tomorrow are going to be warmest, including for Peggy's Cove. Isolated chance of a shower for the Atlantic coastline early on, and then we're clearing pretty quickly throughout the morning. It's going to be a nice afternoon. That northerly wind will certainly keep things feeling a bit fallish, but overall a great day. Sunday, temperatures a little warmer by a degree or two, should be ranging between around 20 and 23 degrees. Lighter winds, lots of sun. For Sunday, it's going to be a great day. So get out and enjoy. That front, there it goes, moving out. That northerly wind with those arrows coming from the north, you can almost feel it for Saturday. There's those lighter winds with the area of high pressure setting up for Sunday and into Monday. And again, the air flows around high pressure in a clockwise motion. So as that high moves to the east, that opens the door and allows that southwest wind to move back in. And that is why our temperatures will really bump Monday, Tuesday, and into Wednesday of next week. So if you've got some time off next week, good for you. A little taste of summer for sure.
It's all looking very favorable, isn't it?
Definitely.
All right, thanks for that, Ryan. Well, a daredevil biker has managed to ride the waves in the Black Sea off the coast of Georgia. You heard right. He's actually riding on water.
Wow.
Now, to pull this stunt off, the wheels needed to be fitted with handmade skis to help glide over the surface. He also had to build up momentum on the beach before entering the sea.
The high speed kept him afloat as he traveled all the way to another town, 33 kilometers up the coast.
Gee.
The biker says he trained for nearly 6 months to get it right.
I think he probably had some wet rides. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure.
That's it for us tonight. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Take care.